Good evening, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and this show is brought to you by our friends at Massage Magazine Insurance Plus. Massage Magazine has been exploring touch therapies for over 25 years and has used that industry knowledge to develop the best value liability insurance in the business. And I want to thank Eric Dalton for sponsoring this presentation and offering Massage Nerd listeners to a 10% discount on all his home study courses. Use the code MN10 when you check out at ericdalton.com. And another sponsor is Shalene Taylor. She turned her struggling massage therapy practice into multi-million-dollar, multi-location success, and now is showing others how to build a purposeful and profitable massage practice. Visit www.iambiz.com. Welcome, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and today we have a special guest, Dianna Dapkins, from the president of Pure Pro Massage Products. Welcome, Dianna.
Hi.
Hi. So, to start off with, how did you get involved in massage products, massage oils, lotions, and creams then?
I was a student at Muscular Therapy Institute in Cambridge in 1992, 91, 92, and I have very sensitive skin, and I really couldn't tolerate the products that were out. There wasn't too much choice, but what was out there was mostly irritating to my skin. So I really started just making products for myself, for my own use and my clients, and just on a very small scale, trying to create things that would work. The other thing was that at MTI we were learning what would now be called medical massage, and a lot of the products were too slippery or too heavy. And I needed something that would work. I was studying with Ben Benjamin, and I needed something that would work with the very specific technique that we were doing, where we needed to stay right on the tissue and not be slipping off of the tissue. So it really was, the impetus was coming out of those two reasons.
So did you start making them in your kitchen and back in the day?
Yeah, started in my kitchen in Somerville. We used to drag the barrels of oil up the back porch until we ripped the stairs off the back porch. And then we went and got a warehouse. But it was very, very small kind of thing. And at first the neighbors thought I was dealing drugs because all these massage therapists would come late at night when they ran out of product. These were all my classmates, and they would, be picking the brown paper bag off of the porch and leaving money in the envelope in the mailbox. So it was quite funny, but it was great. We got a lot of good feedback. At first, I gave away a lot of product. I sort of made things and would bring it into school, and it was a very close-knit community, and we'd get really good feedback, and really just created things. I love to cook. I come from a crazy, crazy Italian family, and we make everything from scratch all the time. So it sort of came out of that kind of creativity and also necessity of neediness. And I didn't really think about the manufacturing end of things. That was a kind of a whole other horizon that I had to deal with. But at that time, I was really interested in just creating things that would work for what we were all doing. And but we did a lot of crazy things. We had a lot of fun.
So what did your massage instructors and fellow students think about what you were doing then?
People were really supportive. I still have many of the people that I know from that time period that are still customers, that are still in the field, very successful. That was definitely part of Muscular Therapy Institute and Ben Benjamin's technique, was that you were going to have a career. You weren't going to come in and out of this field. You were going to actually have, if you wanted it, you were going to have, or as much of a full-time career as you wanted. And he was very good at getting, at that time, it was unheard of that a hospital would have a massage therapist on staff or even in the hospital on any real capacity. And he was really good at connecting with Harvard Medical School and the Deaconess and some of the Boston hospitals like Dana-Farber and Brigham and Women's. And these were, they are world-class hospitals. So it was really kind of exciting. So a lot of those people that I originally went to school with and worked with became customers then and are still, and we still work together. And I do a lot, I work a lot with my customers to get feedback. I love to get feedback from people and hear about the different modalities that they're doing and how it's working. And one of the results of that was that a relatively new field, oncology massage, which Tracy Walton does a lot with that field in terms of teaching that modality. She was actually my physiology teacher at MTI. So it was great to work with her. And as that developed, to be able to give her a lotion or an oil and get feedback, and we actually do a lot of work with oncology and hospice and pregnancy and a lot of the niche modalities where people have very sensitive skin. That's something that I'm very proud of, that we do. I've done a lot of research and work and had a lot of success with.
And this big hospital that I've been working with for the last few years, the only thing that they use is jojoba. That's the only oil they use, just because they think it's a lot safer and stuff. But what kind of oils do you guys use then, and typically on oncology then?
Well, jojoba is a very safe product. It's what I would call a safety oil, because it's not an oil. It's a wax ester, and it's very similar to your own sebaceous waxes. Extremely neutral. Has all oils have a slightly acidic pH, but that is barely acidic. So it's very neutral. And great product. Personally, I find it a little too dry, and I like a dry, light product, but I find it a little too, it absorbs a little bit too much to get any kind of leverage on the skin. That said, it's a perfectly good choice, although we found a lot of hospitals are afraid of oil because it doesn't have preservatives in it, which is kind of ironic, but you have to remember the hospital setting is it's a different universe in terms of what they're dealing with for infections and germs and so forth. So we have a lot of hospitals that we're working with in hospice type places are like the lotion. We make a lotion product, but they favor lotions over oils in general. And we do a neutral pH lotion that is very, very popular, truly hypoallergenic. And it's a jojoba coconut base. So again, integrating that jojoba. In terms of oils, we do a product called Ultra, which is similar to jojoba in that it's a wax ester, but it's a wax ester made from coconut. And these esters tend to behave better in terms of skin irritation and potentially causing, clogging the pores and things like that. They tend to be a lot cleaner and lighter and wash out and wash off more easily.
Yeah, because that's one thing. They're the hospital I'm working with, they're just afraid of people breaking out or anything else, and I mean they're all about safety, of course, and stuff. So,
yeah. And when you're dealing with oncology, the oncology realm, it's very difficult because when you have people who are undergoing different treatments, they can develop skin sensitivities or reactions at any time. Things are shifting for them. Similarly, but not quite as extreme, you'll have that with pregnant clients as well. I mean, they, at different points in the pregnancy, different things may affect them, and the body is in flux. So, yeah, I do recommend going as neutral as possible. And if you are concerned, if the client is indicating they have sensitive skin, or you have any sort of reason to believe that's the case, working a small area initially and getting, and seeing how things are going and waiting a little bit of time before you apply a product, say head to toe.
Yep. And now you're in your 20th year now, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So did you do anything to celebrate?
Maybe we'll get parole.
Yeah.
But no, well, nothing in particular. I mean, it's gone very quickly. So it's kind of like, woo. But I hope we're getting smarter.
Yeah.
We're trying to have fun.
Yep. And what makes a massage product, be an oil, lotion, gel, or cream, gentle or safe for sensitive skin, would you say?
Well, there's a number of things. And different products have different aspects. When you're dealing with an oil, like I just said, avoiding nut-related ingredients, things like almond or peanut. I highly recommend that because of the prevalence of nut allergies. And the other thing is I'll give you an example. The oils generally don't have preservatives in them per se. Typically, people will use tocopherol. Other manufacturers will use tocopherol, which is a vitamin E. The vitamin E is an antioxidant. It keeps the oil from going rancid. Vitamin E is a good thing. It's good for the skin. It's good for the body, and it does help the oil stay fresh longer. It gives you about 20% more shelf life. It's not quite the silver bullet that people think it is, but it's still a positive thing. One of the distinctions that's very hard for the consumer to make is that there are actually synthetic vitamin E, and the FDA doesn't distinguish on your label. You don't have to say synthetic or natural. So some people actually react to the synthetic vitamin E. that can be an issue. Another issue are another thing that I see a lot are reactions to the water dispersant agents, and a common one would be octopalmitate. That you see a lot, and sometimes you'll see it very high on the ingredient list. When you read an ingredient list, the ingredients are in the order of percentage. So, for example, if you were to see octopalmitate as a first or second ingredient, the chances are that's a large percentage of the total product in terms of the volume, and it's done by weight. And in any event, we're seeing a lot of octopalmitate. Isopropyl myosтерate is another one you'll see, but they're similar. And people and companies put those things into the massage oil to get it to wash out better. That's what water dispersible means. I always had a problem with it because I found that A, it didn't wash out that much better in my experience, and B, again, some skin irritation, and especially over time. Not so much in the clients. I tend to hear more from therapists who have been using X, Y, or Z water dispersible product for a number of years, and then suddenly are developing contact dermatitis. So for those folks, it's not working. One of the things that I do recommend is, like I said, the wax esters like our Ultra, which is water dispersible without the additives. Another option is to use any kind of massage oil as a single oil, like a pure apricot kernel, for example, and use a minimal amount. Most people use too much product, and I make the product, I sell the product, but I am constantly telling therapists, especially students, less. And what I always tell people is use as little as possible for the whole week. Like every treatment, use as absolute minimal product as you can, and the following week, you will not feel like you're being deprived. You'll actually feel comfortable with that lesser amount, because people do tend to put too much on. Definitely a problem for students because they don't have control. They're shutting down their pecs, they're shutting down their wrists, it's like trying to ice skate on a pond that is covered with water. It's too slippery. So especially with oil, you just need to cut the friction. You don't need to be seeing a sheen on the skin. In terms of lotions and creams, it's a little bit different in terms of finding something that's gentle. The hypoallergenic is something that people look for. Unfortunately, there isn't too much regulation or there's very little standardization around what truly constitutes hypoallergenic. And there's a lot of trial and error on the consumer's part where you have to just try things. One thing that I would definitely look for is to make sure the lotion or cream you're using is nut oil free. Most are now, but it's still something to check for. The other thing is a lot of the creams and lotions, again, are still integrating that octopalmitate, which if you have sensitive skin, I do not recommend it. And frankly, you don't really need it because in a lotion or a cream, they're emulsified and they will wash out better inherently just by the way they are made. So the other thing is to look at pH ranges, which is, again, hard for the consumer, but we make all of our products generally between a 6.2 and a 7 pH. 7 is the pH of water. And your skin has a pH of 6.2 to 6.5. And there are things that will affect your skin, health, age, things of that sort might change the pH slightly, but generally you have a slightly acidic mantle on the skin. So if you're coming into it with a product around that pH range, it's a nice neutral approach. Many of the products in the massage industry, unfortunately, and I've had a number of them, pH tested, a lot of products are using, and this is true in the body care world as well, cosmetics in general, they're using lower pH ranges in the 5s. I've seen them as low into the 4s. It gives you a longer shelf life, but it can over time it can irritate your skin. And again, you'll see the therapist experience this more than the client because the therapists are in up to their elbows, 5-6 hours a day in this product repeatedly. So it's something to look for when you talk with other manufacturers. You can ask them, what is the pH of this product? And they should be able to tell you. And you want to stay, like I say, I would say, 5.8, 5.9 to around 7. You want to stay in that neutral range.
Okay. And then also you said something about people using less amount of products. I mean, that's more cost effective in the long run, but everybody
Oh,
thinks they just need so much more all the time, it seems. And
absolutely. And when I started the business, I was really reacting to what I thought was product that was heavy and greasy at the time. And honestly, that those sorts of products that I sort of came up with when I was first starting, the ones I was using, the other brands, they are now middle of the road. There are now other products online, especially where there's just been an explosion of massage products and so forth that are just simply, they're like Teflon. I mean, they literally, you literally cannot hold, you can get no purchase on the tissue. And again, perhaps for extreme effleurage or something like that, that might be appropriate. But if you have, any kind of technique where you want to have any grasp or contact with the tissue or really know the musculature, you can't have too much of a barrier or cushion between your hand and the tissue, or it just makes it impossible to really discern. And I'm really concerned about students, particularly because they don't know. They might go online, they might buy something very cheap because it's $15 a gallon for this massage lotion or whatever, and they start using that, and they don't have the ability to discern the tissue yet. So it can actually make their job harder in terms of what they're trying to learn. So I encourage people, use less, use the lightest product you can, and really experience the tissue, because that's how you know what you're touching, what you're working with. The lubricant is just supposed to be an assistance. It's not supposed to be it's not supposed to do the massage for you. I think people think if it's super slick, it makes it easier to work, but it absolutely does not make it easier to work. It's frankly harder to work with hyper slippery product.
yeah, and one of my first massage classes I ever taught, one of the students, we had bottles with spouts on them. He actually poured it on the on the client. Just
Making
shocked
a
me.
submarine sandwich.
Yeah.
I've had oil in my ear.
Yeah.
I know when they get to the top of the shoulders and they get that little splash, that little mist.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've all been practice buddies for students, and I'm like, whoa, cowboy, get the towels, slow it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen that movie. Yeah, and like I say, I make the product, but I'm very, I didn't come into this business to sell bottles of goo. I wanted to make a healing tool, or all of these things. I want them to be healing tools, and they all came out of my practice and working with clients. And people go to my website, they see the videos of me working on clients, and they're like, wow, that this person knows what I'm experiencing when I'm working with this person with fibromyalgia, or I'm working with this person with adhesions from old whiplash, or and that's really where I'm coming at this. I'm not coming at it from a typical manufacturing standpoint. We're a lot like a microbrewery, and I'm a total ingredient geek. I'm just really interested in ingredients, and I'm interested in actives and how we can make things better.
Yep. And then there's three major categories of oils, lotions, gels, and also massage creams. But how are massage oils in general made then?
Well, massage oils, there's a variety of things out there. Some people are just using like food grade type products, that the kind of thing you buy at a health food store. And there's nothing wrong with those, except they tend to have very short shelf lives, and they tend to have some odor to them, because when they cold press those oils, they basically use a mechanical press for those. They don't really fully filter them. Why? Because they want some of the plant material left in that oil because of flavor, which when you go to the health food store, that's why they're selling a rapeseed oil or a coconut oil or an almond oil, just because people are going to consume it. Again, you can use it on the skin. You're going to have some shelf life issues, and you're going to have some odor. A good pharmaceutical grade oil, which is what we deal with, is the same oil that is mechanically crushed, but it is filtered under pressure through Fuller's Earth, which is a type of natural clay, and they filter it over 1 million cycles. And what that does is it takes out some of the chlorophyll and some of the plant material that's left behind. You get a lighter colored product, you get no odor, and you get a more stable oil. You get in essence, a pure oil. And that it's hard for people to know this, though, because they go online and they'll see grapeseed oil for a very, very low price. And then they'll see another, my grapeseed oil or another grapeseed oil that's this pharmaceutical grade, and they will see a much higher price. And if they were to try both those products side by side, they might be able to tell the difference. There are lots of other ways to make oils, but that's the natural way. That's the way most of the massage oils are being made. A lot of massage oils are integrating what I call low-grade food oils, like they're using filler oils like soybean and canola. I don't use those. I find them sticky and tacky. Plus, I'm Italian. It's against my religion to have it in the house. But it's, people are always blown away when they try like our ultra oil or even our pure apricot kernel oil. They're like, I can't believe how beautiful this feels. When I was in school, we had this oil. It was so slimy. It was so gooey. I encourage people to try samples, try different things, because I think if you get a good quality caliber oil, you'll be surprised. Also, once the aquapalmitate is mixed in, the dispersants, that can change the texture on some of the massage oils too. In terms of lotions and creams, and I put gels and lotions together, because to me, gels are basically a sort of a version of a lotion in terms of the way they're made and the way they act on the skin. Lotions and creams are made in a similar fashion. The biggest difference between lotion and cream is viscosity. Creams, of course, are heavier, thicker, generally a little more long-lasting on the skin in terms of skin play and workability. But they're made similarly. Lotions tend to be lighter, thinner, different ratios of ingredients. When you make a lotion or a cream, you have three major families of components. You have waxes, which we use a vegetable wax, coconut-based vegetable waxes. You have water, and purified water, and water-soluble ingredients like glycerin and aloe vera and anything that will be miscible in water. And you have oil. You can put a variety of oils in. We tend to use, like I said, jojoba, coconut, apricot kernel, that give. We try to get slip on our creams and lotions the old-fashioned way. There are a lot of other additives you can add in, but I like the feel of oil. I think it gives a nice integrated slip with the skin. So those are your three families: the water, the waxes, and the oils. And basically, the process, to simplify it, you're heating them to a certain point, so they're pretty hot, and then you are putting them together in a tank, and you are emulsifying, which means basically major mix master. You're beating these ingredients together, and there's a couple of different processes we do to get them to stay together so that they stay stable and they're not separating when they go to the client or when they get shipped and so forth, so they have a shelf stability. So basically you're emulsifying these things, they're coming all together, and you'll take this sort of mushy-gushy liquid, and you'll end up with this beautiful, through the process of mixing it, you'll end up with this beautiful white, lovely lotion or cream, depending on how much water and how much wax and how much oil. And the other big difference between oils and lotions and creams as a family are, like I said, generally oils have no preservative in them. Lotions and creams, by their nature, have to have preservatives. And this is an issue that is very confusing for consumers, because a lot of people will use fragrances that actually work as preservatives, but they can call it a fragrance, so they'll say the product is preservative-free, but it's semantics. When you put water into a product, years ago a chemist told me this, and I thought this was beautiful. He said to me, water is life. You put water into a product, it gives you a beautiful texture of the lotion or a beautiful texture of the cream on the skin, and it washes off easily and it feels wonderful. But that water is, life-giving to bacteria and yeast and so forth. So you do need to use some preservative. I can talk more about preservatives because there's a lot of confusion about them. We're using a silver citrate from Switzerland. It's a new preservative system based on silver. I'm very excited about it. I've been researching preservatives for over 6 years, trying to get things that are better and greener and skin safe. But I'm probably one of the only manufacturers who will tell you this. That, like I said, you do have a compromise when you use lotions and creams. We get a lot of people who call up and they want 100% natural. They have an easy choice: oil. our oils are 100% natural, and we use a natural vitamin E. So they have that option. If you want the paradigm of a lotion and cream, you're going to have to you will have preservatives in that lotion and cream. Again, we're using them in a minimal amount because we're catering to people with sensitive skin. We're looking at an 18-month shelf life. If you go into a drugstore and buy a hand lotion, you can see shelf lives in the 10, 20, 25-year range because of the level of preservation in that product. So by industry standards, we're still minimally preserving, but you are making that choice when you use a lotion and a cream.
And for lotion, cream, oil, and stuff, I mean, what's the life expectancy usually on those for your professional grade and stuff?
Yeah, a vegetable oil, which would be massage oil, under normal temperature conditions is 1 year. And if people want to keep it longer, because a lot of people now want to buy bulk and they're trying to save money on freight and so forth, you can do a couple of different things. You can refrigerate it and you'll double the shelf life. In New England, we just put it in the basement, which is about the same thing. I used to tell people in Florida to do that, and they would just laugh at me. They didn't have a basement, but keep it cool, keep it out of light, keep it capped. The things that make oil or any product go rancid are heat, light, and air. So you want to minimize the exposure to those things. When you're dealing with a lotion and cream, the industry standard is anywhere from 18 months to 24 months, so a year and a half to 2 years. But the same situation. If you expose it to extreme heat or leave it open or a lot of light, I've had people put things like in the window in their office because they think it looks pretty and they want to warm it up in the sunlight. That's fine, but it's going to shorten your shelf life. I also recommend that you keep the bulk amount, like I said, in someplace cool, and then just refill your dispensing bottles. And that way, if something goes wrong, well, a lot of people like to heat their small bottles for application to the skin, and heating and cooling multiple times can shorten your shelf life as well. But that way, you're only dealing with a small amount if that happens, and your bulk amount remains intact. So I do recommend that as well.
And what about fragrances and stuff like that versus unscented?
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a kind of, these are huge subjects, so I'm just going to try to touch on them. In this industry and in the cosmetic industry in general, massage products are considered cosmetics by the FDA because we make no medical claims, and we are just dealing with topicals. We're not dealing with anything that is not a topical. So with that in mind, they don't. The word fragrance is it's just such a generic word, but it could be hundreds of different chemical components in what makes a fragrance for an artificial fragrance. We don't do a lot of scented products, but the products I do that have scent, like our peppermint fandango foot cream, has actual essential oil with peppermint in it. I'm not using an artificial. What people don't understand about fragrance is a lot of the ingredients to make a fragrance can be carcinogenic or allergenic at the very least. Most people in this field are going unscented, I think, for their primary product, which I highly recommend that you do that. But one of the complaints I hear a lot is I bought such and such a cream and it says fragrance free, but it has a smell. It has a chemical smell. Or another thing we get a lot, there's a company selling a so-called organic cream that has a rose, like an artificial rose smell. That's actually the preservative. That's a preservative called phenoxyethanol. That is a synthetic preservative. It has an artificial rose smell. And many people find that irritating and sensitizing, skin sensitizing. So, here you've got a product that they haven't added a fragrance to, but the chemical that's in it has a scent. Some products just have an alcohol smell or an extremely waxy odor, and all of those things are related to the ingredients. So technically they are fragrance free, but they aren't truly unscented. And I'm a real stickler about that. And many people work with us just for that reason, because if you get something from me that's unscented, it is absolutely neutral. When I'm working with a client, if I want to add essential oils, that's one thing. But if I want to have a base that is completely neutral when I start.
And the question in the chat is, how often should I replace dispensing bottles?
Great question. What I recommend for oils, for massage oils, I recommend a couple of things. You can usually sanitize them by putting them, washing them. I usually wash them out in the sink, put them through the dishwasher, then take some rubbing alcohol and actually fill the bottle up. Say it's an 8-ounce bottle, put maybe an ounce or so of rubbing alcohol in it, cap it, shake it up, get some alcohol really in there, pour that out, and open it up and let it evaporate, let any residue evaporate. At that point, I do that like, I would say every 3 months I would do that. And then at that point, after it evaporates, if you still feel residue, because sometimes oil can penetrate into the surface of the plastic bottle, if it still feels like it's not clean, it goes in the recycling bin. Typically, if you do this alcohol thing, though, you'll get do it every 3 months. You'll get a year's time out of your bottles. So for cleaning them 4 times, you'll extend the shelf life. Same thing goes with the pumps. We've had situations where the bottles are clean and the product is fresh, but the pump itself has gone rancid inside the pump mechanism, and that's because there's a lot of air exposure in that pump mechanism. Some people will pump water and soap and water through their pump. That can cause mold. Don't do that. Again, rubbing alcohol. If the pump is really gummed up, let the alcohol stay in there. You can get rubbing alcohol pretty reasonably, and I use it to wipe down all my products. And between clients, I wash everything with soap and water, and then at the end, after doing that, I actually spray everything down with rubbing alcohol because it's a really good sanitizer. It's very portable. In terms of, smell, the other thing you can do is smell the bottles. If there's any scent where the bottle smells rancid, and a lot of people don't even know what rancid smells like, and it's very hard to describe, but the best description I can give people, and they usually get it, is you went someplace and you had like a handful of nuts that you took like out of the nut bowl, or you had a package of nuts, and you were eating the nuts and they were fine, and all of a sudden you got a nut that was bad. It tasted sour, and that's rancid. And rancid is, like I said, it's oxidized. You don't want to use product that has gone rancid. I've had people say to me, well, it smelled a little off, but I put some lavender in it and I just did the massage. That's like going to the fridge and getting the milk and it's bad and your kid wants breakfast, so you put some chocolate syrup in it and you give it to the kid. That's not good. So I always tell people, do not use rancid product on the skin. It's full of free radicals. That's what rancidity is. It's in essence, it's as if the oil or lotion is rusted, and you wouldn't use that on somebody's skin if you could see it. But that's chemically what's happening. I would say, a good dispensing bottle, you can get the year out of it. Some people prefer the glass bottles for that reason, although we know they're not as easy to use in a treatment space, especially if you're in a wet room or something like that. But glass, of course, cleans up almost infinitely. But definitely, I think it's really important to keep everything as sanitary as possible, because you can gain a lot of shelf life. If you take a gallon of good oil, lotion, cream, and you pump it out into a dispenser that has gone rancid or has residue in it that has gone rancid, that new clean product will turn rancid usually within a week. It turns it. So you don't want to have that happen.
So typically you should, once you pump enough in there, you should take off that pump then and then clean it and then just put the cap back on it, or?
I would say every 3 months on average. There are exceptions. Like massage schools, we tell them to do it every month because there's a much higher volume, a lot of cross-contamination in the school situation. But in a normal practice, I would say most of even busy practices, spas and so forth, they're just cleaning, every 3 months. They're doing the heavy cleaning with the alcohol in terms of pumping it through and so forth. And it's also better ecologically because people throw away so many of these components and so forth. And all of our components are recyclable, like our jars and our bottles and so forth, but pumps are not recyclable because a good pump has metal inside of it, it has stainless steel inside of it, as well as plastic, and the recycling places will not break that apart. So they end up in the landfill. We're using all USA made or first world made components. I'm very committed to that for a lot of reasons, but ecologically, if you can reuse, that's the absolute best solution.
And then also I've heard of a lot of therapists actually heating up their oil, so like heated bottle warmers. Does that actually destroy the property? And is that something you should actually throw away at the end of the day just because it's been heated then, or?
No, no, no. You can heat and cool an oil a number of times if it's a fresh product. But like I said, heat and cool the small dispensing quantity. Keep your bulk quantity out of that, and you should not have a problem. No. Again, there's extreme situations where we've had people doing out-call service in Miami, and they're keeping the product in their trunk of their car in August. Yeah, that's an oven. That's a little different. Or we have some customers in Arizona. It can get to be 120 degrees in a garage, and they've been storing their product in their house in the garage. Any extreme is going to cause you problems. But if you work within normal temperature ranges, even heating and cooling, if you have an 8-ounce bottle, depending on the product, you're going to use a ½ ounce to 1 ounce of product, depending on what you're doing for a full body treatment. So for a busy therapist, an 8-ounce dispensing bottle, you're turning that over, relatively often.
Okay. And then you also make essential oils, and then there's a question in the chat. Are there particular essential oils that you don't recommend for pregnant clients, or any certain ones that you do?
Yeah, there's a number of contraindications for pregnancy. Frankly, unless you have a lot of aromatherapy training, my party line is don't use essential oils with pregnant clients, period. There are some that are, considered absolutely contraindicated. Typically nervines, things that affect the central nervous system, anything that has a strong effect on the endocrine or circulatory system, which, those are the oils that therapists like to use, like rosemary and peppermint, stimulating oils, the oils that are going to stimulate circulation. So I just, I really recommend, just unless you have, like I said, advanced training, I don't recommend using essential oils with pregnant clients. Also, you could have a client that loves lavender, has loved lavender, you've been seeing them for 10 years, and now they're pregnant, and lavender suddenly makes them nauseous. And that could change from month to month. So when I'm dealing with a pregnant client, I use very neutral product, as simple as possible. So if there is a reaction or any kind of issue, it's very simple to find out what it is. On our website, we do have much more comprehensive lists of contraindications and things like that. But I just don't recommend it. For it's not worth it, I think. The other thing is that we don't make the essential oils. Very few companies actually make their own essential oils. Essential oils take a large amount of raw material. For example, if you were to get a ½ ounce of lavender, a little small bottle, you'd be looking at a box. I happen to have a box here. A box about this size, of lavender flowers, compressed down into a little ½ ounce bottle, steam distilled. So you need to go to where the lavender is grown, and there are people there who will pick it at the height of perfection, the height of ripeness, and they will press it that day, and you will get the best lavender. I actually bring lavender in from 4 countries and blend it because I'm very particular about the type of lavender I use in my own products. We bring lavender in from France, England, Russia, and Bulgaria, and I actually, blend it. We make all our synergies here where we blend the different oils, but I import oils from all over the world and try to bring in the best quality therapeutic grade oils.
And this question comes up a lot. I see that. Is there any certain products that less likely to develop stains and sheets then? And
yeah, it's a big issue. It's a huge issue. Backing up from the product though, the sheets are also an issue because, of course, right? Because a lot of people, and I understand why they do it, they go to, department store or wherever, and they buy percale sheets, like 50-50, 50% polyester, 50% cotton, and they're like a no iron kind of sheet. They look really nice on the table. They're not wrinkled, and they look really crisp. Couple of problems with those sheets. They're also very affordable. Initially for purchasing them, but then in the long run they'll cost you more money. The problem with the sheets is this: the polyester fibers, the artificial fibers, will attract oil and hold it and not release it. And you might get away a little bit longer with a cream or a lotion, but over time those have oil in them too, and the same problem will occur, and they'll become almost impossible to clean. The other problem with the percale sheets or the 50-50 sheets is, especially when you're working with elderly clients with very papery skin, or anybody, like I said, with sensitive skin, they are a little rougher. They have a little bit of a rougher mantle to them. So, for example, I do some jostling and some range of motion, and I use 100% cotton flannel sheets. The cotton will release the oils and lotions and creams better, and they're more durable. They do look a little more wrinkly on the table, I won't say that, but the cotton, the 100% natural fibers will clean up better. They will last longer. They won't hold stains. If you do get a stain, they won't hold it as much when you go to try to remove it. That said, my mother would be so proud that I'm teaching people how to do laundry on the internet, but this is good. But basically, you need a degreaser. I'm not trying to sell you my degreaser. I do make a citrus-based degreaser, delimonene-based degreaser that I think is very good. But whatever degreaser you choose to use, get the degreaser before you have the problem. Because what most people do is they spend a lot of money on linens, especially when they get out of school. And then they start using them, and then they start having problems with them going rancid, stained, oil residue. And it's also a health issue, frankly, because if you have rancidity and residue in your sheets, they're not sanitary. So it's a big issue. Buy the degreaser when you buy sheets new, and start using the degreaser as you go, and you will not get the oily buildup, and it will help prevent the oily buildup. It's much easier to do that than it is to try to retroactively solve the problem. The other thing is, a lot of people want to use bleach on a stain or to get the oil out. Bleach is good for stains. It's not good for oil. So you need to degrease first and then go back a second time with the bleach. Otherwise, the bleach will turn your oil yellow. It'll actually make it worse. Same for non-chlorine bleach. You need to get the oil out. Also, when people go to take things out of the washer and dryer, when you go to take it out of the washer and you feel any residue or any odor or any sense that there's still oil left in those linens, do not put them into the dryer, because you will bake it in, you will make it impossible. Rewash, and sometimes you might have to wash a couple of times because you've got an oily buildup problem. The other thing that I do that I love, and I wish I'd thought about this because I don't have a prop here, but I use hand towels, which would be like a little cotton towel, those small little towels. You can buy them in bulk. They're very affordable. And as I finish, and this is something I learned from Ben Benjamin, actually, as I finish each section of the client, I don't use my linens, my towels or my sheets to mop the client, let's say the torso. I actually take the hand towel, I wrap it around my hand like a mitt, and I use that to clean the client off with it section by section as I work. And I've had clients say that it feels better because it's a little exfoliating and it gets them really clean. I then take those hand towels, wipe-off towels as I call them, and I segregate those when I do the laundry. Those get washed by themselves. I use a degreaser with them, but most of the product remains in those and not in your linens. And when the hand towels, wipe-off towels, get really bad over time, they do, it's much more affordable to replace those than it is to replace sets and sets and sets of linens. Also, I love those hand towels because I use them sometimes for a little wedge under the hip or a little roll under the neck. They're just a handy tool to have. Another thing is for part-time therapists, they can't always get the laundry done quickly enough, and they'll let the linen sit. And what I recommend is get black plastic bags, and again, separate off your wipe-off towels and your linens, and put each of them in the black plastic bags. Squish out all the air and tie it tightly or close it tightly. And if you do a massage on Monday, you're not going to do laundry until Friday, and you can keep the air out of there and keep it from going rancid before you wash it, because that's another issue. But the number one thing is to stay on top of it, and it won't be a problem. Also, use less product. Absolutely, that's also a huge part of it. Another thing we get a lot of calls about are mascara stains or makeup stains on the face cradles. Frankly, those are very difficult. You can get a commercial stain remover like a Shout or all the different brand names and pre-spot with those. Obviously, talk to the clients, ask them not to apply makeup before they get on the table. I have had clients that would continue to do that, and what I actually did with one of them, because it was so extreme, I actually said to her, I've laundered these, but this is your face cradle cover, and when you come, I'm going to use this again for you, because that way it was just stained, but it was hers. And she was totally fine with that. And, so that's another way around it. But the makeup stains can be extreme.
And what's the difference between water dispersible and water soluble?
Really interesting question, because as far as I'm concerned, there is no water soluble oil, technically. Dispersible is probably a more accurate term, which means it will, they put an ingredient in there, they put a chemical in there that will help to break up the oil so that it will break up and wash out more easily. And but people use those terms interchangeably. Although you don't tend to see things labeled water soluble, people just sort of say that. But again, a lot of the dispersants I see they're not. It doesn't do the job completely. Even a water dispersible oil, I really do recommend using a degreaser. You might be able to cheat and use the degreaser, maybe cut it half with regular laundry detergent, or maybe use it every other time. But you're still going to want to use a degreaser. The other thing that people don't recognize is, of course, the product is the primary culprit, but some clients actually have very oily skin or sebaceous waxes, or I've had clients that were smokers that literally, if I was doing a deep treatment or a long treatment, I would get, that sense of nicotine coming out of their skin. So sometimes clients are going to leave residues on your linens as well, so that are going to be sebaceous and oily in nature. So you really want to use a degreaser regularly. It's just like a sanitizer. It's funny because people are so into the sanitizing, but they somehow it disconnects with the linens with the degreaser. But it's a cost of doing business, and if you spend the extra $1 or $1.50 per load to get the degreaser in your linens, you will extend the life of your linens probably by triple. And as you know, the cost of linens is far higher than the cost of a degreaser.
Yep. And then when I was going through massage school back in the 90s, what we did was we added vitamin E capsules, but we opened them up and put them in the oil and stuff. And we thought it would actually make the oil last longer and stuff. So
it'll give you about 20% shelf life.
Okay.
Increase in shelf life. It is a good thing. Again, they don't really regulate whether it's synthetic or not. Now, the synthetic and natural will do the same thing. They'll have the same effect on shelf life. But, I don't recommend the synthetic, obviously. Maybe you're trying to use a nice, natural, clean product, and you want to make sure you get a natural vitamin E. Now, also, something like jojoba, for example, has a lot of natural vitamin E inherent in it. And, of course, it's a more stable product anyway. But, some products you don't need to add vitamin E to, for example, because they're already loaded with that sort of stuff.
Are there other vitamins or minerals and stuff that are good for the body then too, that are sometimes in oils? Or
you'll see people sometimes add ascorbic acid or vitamin C type thing. That's about shelf life, though. That's not particularly good or bad. It's not going to be absorbed that much topically as far as nutrition or anything. You don't see it that much. Sometimes people add the vitamin A, but that's more usually in retail products, and it's not really doing very much. It's not something you'd want to add. Go out of your way to add. It's not going to have a cost-effective result.
And do you have any certain tips for working with clients with sensitive skins then?
Sensitive skin, pardon me?
Yeah. Do you have any certain kind of tips working with clients with sensitive skin? Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I always recommend to therapists is to take a good look at your intake form when you do a client intake. I have an intake form that I have the client fill out, and then I always sit and talk with them and sort of use that as a point of discussion. And couple of the questions that I always recommend that people add to their intake form, the first one is, do you have any allergies? And next to that question, I always put in parentheses, foods, nuts, so that it gets them thinking, oh yeah, I can't have peanut butter. If someone indicates something like that, right away that you do not want to use any nut products with them. They may not know they have a topical sensitivity to it, but if they've got a food sensitivity to something like that, then you want to be careful. I also ask them if they, in general, do they have sensitive skin? I'll ask them, because people who do, will be happy to tell you. And if that's the case, again, I would start with something very simple, like our Ultra or apricot kernel or a jojoba, something very, very simple, so that you can work with that client. And if something does occur, you can limit you know exactly what's going on. And the other thing that I do with clients, I've had a couple of clients with some health issues, immunocompromised kind of situations where they were really, really just, there was so much going on. And what I recommend is with that client, if you're going to try, say you've been using jojoba, but you want to try a new product with them because you really need to try a lotion, or you need to use this, you want to try a foot cream with them or something, what I would recommend is testing the product on them. And what I do is before they even get on the table, I would take a little bit of the product and apply it just to the inside folds of the elbow. This tends to be a very sensitive area. Some people will test it around the throat, but I think this is just as simple. And I'll just put a little daub of it. And I won't work with the product that time. I'll stay with what I was doing. But at the end of the massage, we'll check in and we'll see. And if you see any kind of redness or any sort of reaction, then you know, obviously you don't go forward. But it gives the client a little bit of a sense of, wow, you're thinking about them, you're on the ball, you're taking some precautions, and you're giving their body a chance to react. It's very tricky. One of the best lessons I ever got, years ago, we used to make a private label oil for an infant massage association. And this therapist taught me so much, because this product was primarily grapeseed oil, which is a very neutral oil, and they're working on babies in the hospital, mostly preemie, well, like failure to thrive and preemies. You know, they were finding that the infants were gaining weight more quickly and doing better with massage twice a week. These were therapists who were volunteering at the time, and everything. We did this for a number of years, and everything was fine. They loved it. The oils were fine. We had one baby that all of a sudden, first massage, covered head to toe in hives. Oh. And the therapist called me very upset. And I said, I don't know. And she was very smart, because she went back the next week and she did the same exact massage, same amount of time, with no product. And the baby was covered head to toe again in hives. So what was happening was the baby's system couldn't take that much stimulation. It just couldn't handle it. With what was going on. And it was a great lesson, because immediately we were thinking it was some product, but what happened was, I think she was working for 10 minutes or so at a time. She cut the time in half on the third time back, and the baby was fine. It just was, the infant just couldn't take it. And that's the same thing when you're dealing with oncology massage, or you're dealing even with pregnancy, or some of the hospice situations. You know, you want to tread lightly, you want to be careful, you want to do some testing. And, you know, usually you can mitigate reaction 99.9% of the time. The other thing is essential oils. A lot of people want to add essential oils or integrate synergies, and they're wonderful. I love working with them, and I love working with clients who are open to it. But I try to introduce to the client when they come in, when they're still dressed, they're seated. I usually do a very brief intake interview when the client comes in, even if it's a regular client. Try to sort of get a sense of what they need today, because I think essential oils in particular are a part of customizing the treatment for the client. And so if I'm introducing something new to them, I will actually give them the bottle, let them smell it and try it. And I listen to what they say, but I watch their body reaction, and I try to get a sense, does this resonate with them? Does this make sense for them? But I don't just apply something pell-mell in a treatment. You know, I have some clients that I've had for years, and I know them, and they're open, and they're like, bring it on. You know, that's a different situation. But I'm talking about your typical client. I introduce it in a neutral fashion, and I kind of watch the reaction, and you know, work with your intuition. Okay, does this resonate with this person? Is this going to work for their frozen shoulder? We do a synergy called Muscle and Joint Blend, which has a lot of essential oils in it. It's very dynamic. I often mix that with Arnica to boost the circulation, and it's phenomenal for really congested tissue. But again, it has to resonate with that client. It has to be something that's going to work with their system.
And then when somebody actually has a breakout, is there any certain things you can do to limit the total reaction then?
Sure, and it's really two different breakouts. There's reactions. There's the client reaction to, you know, which is sort of one animal, and then there's what happens with the therapist. So I'll deal with the client first. it's rare, but a client might call you either later after the treatment or the following day and say, I was very itchy, or that would be a minimal reaction, or I had some hives, in an area, or usually the hives, if it's more extreme, will be along lymph node areas. They'll have usually their abdomen will sort of be itchy or have raised hives. You'll see that sometimes, again, throat, chest. It could be face. It can be anywhere, but those would be the sort of hot spots. And the first thing you try to discern is this, are they calling you because they had it and it went away, or is it still there? And how much time are we talking about? If they just got home and it's minimal, chances are it might just be an overstimulation situation or something else going on. So that will probably just sort of work itself out. If it's more extreme, like they're calling you the next day and they're really having a major reaction, at that point I would refer them to a medical professional, because they might have some latent allergy that is just something you can't predict. Typically, if it's a minor reaction, if it's localized, a little bit of cortisone cream or something like that, or Benadryl cream, that will usually will soothe it. I've even had people take a little bit of baking soda, make a paste, and put it on a raised hive, and it dissipates. Again, these things are rare. One thing I do see a lot with clients, not a lot, but I've seen it enough. We do sell to a number of spas, and a person will go in for, say, a day of beauty, and they are at that spa from like 10 in the morning until God knows, 6 at night, 5 at night. They've had every modality known to man. They've been steamed and sauteed and facial and glycolic acid peel and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the last treatment of the day is the full body massage. And they react. They end up usually head to toe in hives. That is 99% of the time I've seen that. It's because, the system is so detoxed, especially with the steaming and so forth. And it's just maybe they haven't hydrated enough. It's just too much, for them. And they usually are fine. It's just a matter of the fact that the massage came at the end, that they attribute it to that. Now, in terms of therapists reacting, I get these phone calls all the time. I've been using such and such cream for 7 years. I love this cream. I can't work without this brand of cream. I've got contact dermatitis. I've been to a dermatologist. I've got, my hands are cracked and peeling and bleeding, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So when something like that happens, a couple of different things. The second you sense something's changing in your skin, especially on your hands, stop. Don't. A lot of people keep using. They think it's going to get better. If you know your body, you work with bodies. If you have that inkling, go to a dermatologist, get medical help immediately, and try to determine what's going on. The other thing, before you go and you try to try another product or any other product, you have to completely heal. It usually takes 3 to 4 weeks, which means not working sometimes, which therapists don't like. But you have to completely let your body reset and then introduce one thing at a time, because otherwise you don't know what is triggering this. But some people just develop sensitivities over time, and you're going to have to try a few different things, and it's going to be a process. And therapists get very impatient, and it can be a really tricky thing. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of this dermatitis coming up from is sanitizers, hand sanitizers. Most hand sanitizers, especially the commercial ones, they're way too strong, especially the way therapists use them. Again, if you're at a sporting event and you have no water and it's a 3-ring circus, yeah, use a hand sanitizer. But I see a lot of therapists, they don't want to go wash their hands between clients, so they're just putting on the sanitizer 4 or 5, 6 times a day. It's too strong, and it takes the good bacteria off of your skin, and it just causes, it expedites having, all kinds of reactions with the skin. And I'm not saying you can't use them, but they need to be used very judiciously. You're better off washing your hands with a good Castile soap. If you're worried about germs, put a little bit of tea tree in it. And if you give a good friction and a really good thorough hand washing, in most situations with most practices, that's sufficient.
And do you still give massages? And if you do, what products do you use?
Yeah, the product. I'm a product geek. Um, so yes, I still work on mostly friends and family because I'm pretty busy with the manufacturing. I still am very involved in production. We roll out like a microbrewery, make very small batches, a lot of attention to detail, and I'm neurotic, and it's a good thing. But that said, I'm an oil person. I like working with oils primarily. I use the Ultra, which is our wax ester, the coconut, and it also has apricot kernel in it and a few other oils, and it's very clean, very light. I really like that. That's probably my go-to primary product. That said, I do use some creams and lotions. I'll use the peppermint podango on the feet and the legs a lot. I have a number of clients with varicosities and edema, and I like integrating that arnica and the peppermint and things like that. I use a lot of essential oils where I customize treatments. I use a lot of arnica. Actually, I just put this as a prop. I actually bring the flowers from Switzerland and make the arnica extract. And arnica is a phenomenal anti-inflammatory, so I do a lot with that. My training was doing injury type of rehab type work, so I do relaxation massage, but a lot of the friends and family I work on are, they have some injuries, so I have that background. Also, I've had some phenomenal success with Arnica with fibromyalgia clients. I couldn't work on a client without it, a fibromyalgia client without it. It just boosts the circulation, and they need that so much. The other product I do use, we'll use a lotion on the face sometimes. A lot of people don't like an oily feeling on the face, but I have a lot of tools in my toolbox. What I always say to therapists, especially students, like I'll have a student say to me, I want to know what the one oil lotion cream is that I can use on every client head to toe for the rest of my life, the rest of my practice. And that is like eating cereal for every meal. That is so boring. And your client will know that. That will come across. When someone comes to see me and they tell me they have a headache, I customize the massage for them so that I work with their feet initially, maybe with a peppermint podango, or maybe I use, we have a courage blend, which is a synergy that's a nice detox. And then I work their neck and head and chest. And I have a whole customized palette of products I can choose from. But really, you only need 2 or 3 products. You don't have to be as crazy as I am, and I'm really into this. You want to have, I would never dream of using the same product on the feet that I would use on the face, for example. So you should have something for the feet. You should have something for the neck or face that isn't too greasy. And then whatever you want to use for a primary product in between. Definitely should have a safety product in your office at all times. And by safety product, I would say a jojoba oil, an apricot kernel oil, a single ingredient that is very neutral, seed-based, because you're going to have a client come in and you're going to read their medical history and their intake form, and the bells are going to go off, and you're going to say, "Wow!" And why not make it easy? Go with something simple, and then you can always try things, down the road. But yeah, I mean, I like to have a lot of things in my toolbox, but I primarily use, like I said, oil and then I customize it with the arnica and with the essential oils.
And a question in the chat: do you offer samples at all?
We do, and we have online. Unfortunately, we do have to charge for them, because if you give things away for free on the internet, so we at one point we were getting thousands of requests, but they were not massage related. So what we do with therapists is, we have a 4-pack, the top 4 samples, which you can have whatever you'd like, but typically we'll send you our lotion, our massage cream, the peppermint podango foot cream, and the Ultra, and it's $5 including shipping. So I don't know if we have that on the site. We may have that on the site now, but if for some reason we don't, you can call the 800 number, and basically for $5 we'll send you those samples. Normally they're $1.50 plus shipping. It's our cost. We're a small company, and we do supply samples to some classes and some workshops and things like that, and some conferences. But normally we'll send, like I said, those 4 out. And people, we also send you a coupon when you buy the samples from us for $10 off your first order. So you basically get your money back if you do order from us. And we try to make it reasonable. We can't do the thing that some other companies are doing, where they are just giving away truckloads of samples. That's it. The other thing is that we're not for everybody. We sell to the top 10% of the industry. We do a lot of people doing specialty modality, people who don't want greasy, people with sensitive skin. And I would say, 3 out of or 4 out of 10 therapists get what we do and love what we do. And we have tremendous loyalty. And I love working with my customers. I love hearing about the amazing work they're doing. I mean, I feel so excited when I hear about all the places and the ways that they're using these things. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And, we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach the way a lot of other products are. We will work with you. We'll talk with you on the phone or email back and forth, and we'll try to help you and get things that work for you. A lot of times I have therapists call or email about a specific client. They're dealing with a specific issue, and they are kind of stumped, or they want some ideas about product, as well as, how they're going to integrate something into the modality, that they're using. And, that's fun for me. I love to hear from therapists. You can call, like I said, or you can email, and we'll try to get you what you need.
And what kind of things do you have working on in the future then? Do you have any special things that you're going to be releasing soon, or?
Well, we just released a bunch of stuff, and we have a couple of things sort of in the queue. We just released the Ralph Stevens Medical Massage Cream.
Love Ralph.
Ralph.
Yeah.
Ralphie!
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Ralph is amazing. Ralph's been in the field 25 plus years, and he's an amazing therapist. And I met Ralph at a conference, and he basically said to me, I've been trying to mix different products together to get the texture I need to do the true deep tissue work that I'm doing, and I'm not happy with what's available. And boy, if I had known then, 5 years later, and literally like 1,000 batches, little mini batches we kept making and tweaking, to get it just right for the texture that he wanted. But I'm really excited about it. And as I said, I'm not a cream user. And I was using the product because I won't sell a product that I wouldn't use. That's just me. I just won't do it. Which is probably why I won't sell gels. But anyway, it was interesting because I liked working with it. The clients liked it. But then I got a massage. I had a massage. And the therapist used the Ralph Stevens Medical Massage Cream on me. And I as a client, I was like, wow, this feels good. So that's kind of exciting. So that's pretty new. And then we have another new product that just came out. It's the Arnica Relief Lotion. And it's, again, the Arnica concentrate, the Arnica that I make. I'm sure we can't really see this very well, but these are flowers infusing in oil. And there's actually a video on our site of me making the extract if you want to really geek out. You can go to purepro.com to the Arnica page, and it's kind of funny because we enabled that video on YouTube so people can put it on their sites, and we have therapists all over the world who've taken that video and put it on their own websites so the clients can see what it is they're using on them, so it's kind of fun. But the Arnica Relief Lotion has the Arnica in it, but it also has this amazing synergy with sweet birch, rosemary, organic rosemary, organic eucalyptus, and lemon. And it's, again, really good at dissipating the congestion. I made it for working with frozen shoulders and really adhered tissue, and been getting really good results, and good feedback from people on that. A lot of chronic pain. We have a number of therapists who work with who do what I call chronic pain practices, or they're dealing with a lot of neuropathies and things like that, and we've been getting really good feedback on that. And then we have an analgesic, which is a whole new venture for me that isn't out yet, but will be out relatively soon, and that I'm still working on and refining. But in the prototype stage, we've been getting good feedback on that as well, and that also integrates Arnica. So that's kind of what's going on. We've been spending we're small, and we have a small R&D budget, but I've been spending every sort of bit that I have on researching the preservative issues and trying to get products that are, not as skin irritating or not going to be an issue, because when the whole paraben thing happened where everybody suddenly went paraben free, it really was a marketing push. It had very little to do with the reality of the chemistry. There are a number of types of parabens. Some are absolutely an issue, but it's a family of chemicals, just like esters or alcohols are a family of chemical components. And there are some that are bad and some that are not so bad. So parabens have kind of been spun into this boogeyman. And but the irony is that in an effort to become paraben-free, most companies went and took preservatives that were worse. They got formaldehyde donors like the DMD hydantoin, and there's a number of different things. And some people actually went back to ingredients that went out of use in the 1920s when parabens came into use. But the analogy I love to give people is, I don't know if anybody, you have to be old to remember this, but when I was a kid, they banned saccharin. Saccharin was bad. And then they came out with NutraSweet. NutraSweet was better because it was new. And now they have sucralose. And frankly, from the data that I've read, I would go back to saccharin. But that's a tendency where, this is bad, but new is better. And in many cases, the paraben-free preservatives, like the phenoxyethanol, which is ethoxylated, it's made with ethylene oxide, which is, on the national toxicology list. This is not a great option. These things came into use, and I couldn't do that because I have people with sensitive skin, and I can't switch to something worse than a paraben. So I've been spending the last 5 years working with different chemists and spending almost our entire R&D budget to come up with something better. Again, we've got the silver citrate from Switzerland. It's very exciting, and it works really, really well because so many of the natural preservatives that we tested, even if used in combination, even used in high percentages, did not do the trick. And we have to have a product that is shelf stable and safe. So we've been excited, but we've only had the silver citrate out for a short while after doing all the testing and everything. And we've been getting great feedback as far as sensitivity and things like that. People are really happy with it. And so as we kind of get that out, and I want to do more education around that so people can, people are so much in a hurry to go paraben-free, but they're dumping from the frying pan into the fire in some cases. And I just want people to have choices and to see what's out there and see what the options are.
Okay, good to know. Is there any other final words at all?
Have fun.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I always tell therapists, don't do a dance routine. Have fun. Create these custom treatments. And that's why we went into this field. We touch people, which is, in this day and age, revolutionary in and of itself. So that's powerful and beautiful, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Yes, definitely. And the best way to get a hold of you is just purepro.com, and then
or you can go to CustServe, CUSTSERV @purepro.com, or you can call us at 800-900-7873. We're on East Coast time, but we're here during the day, and we'll get back to you if for some reason, you email or you get our voicemail because of the time difference. We'd love to hear from people.
Yep, thanks. Thank you very much, Dianna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Good night.